Welcome to a second Avid Visions review of the Vivitar Series 1 13mm f2.8. This all-manual lens is a hidden gem, boasting some of the sharpest ultra-wide glass available on the market, period. This lens can be used both on crop sensor and full-frame cameras, giving up to a 116-degree field of view without producing any pronounced fisheye effect. Since the last time we filmed a review of the Vivitar 13mm f2.8, we got some negative feedback about the quality of the filming and of the review. So this time, we're going to be much more serious about how we review this lens.
This lens, for what it costs, is actually very well built. Most of the body is comprised of plastic and metal, and you'll find metal and plastic all around the lens. So the body right here is mostly metal with a rubber focusing grip. The lens cap is plastic and the lens hood is plastic. However, something that I really like about this lens is that it actually has an all-metal mount, which is great for a lens that costs this much. It weighs in at 1.3 pounds, so it's got a little bit of a heft to it, which is nice when you purchase something that costs $260. And most of the weight is allocated in the front portion of the lens, because as you can see, this front element is huge. And actually the side pedals on the hood don't manage to cover it all up entirely. We'll do a close-up of that. So at this point, some of you might be wondering, what's the difference between the Vivitar 13mm and the Rokinon 14mm? Despite the fact that it sounds like they have a 1mm difference in focal range, this is actually a 13.8mm, but Vivitar decided to round down. Now, in the past, Rokinon and Vivitar usually make the same exact lenses, but rebrand them because they tailor to different markets. But when you look into it, the Vivitar is actually different than the Rokinon. First off, this weighs 1.3 pounds, whereas the Rokinon weighs 2 pounds. This has 14 elements in 10 groups. The Rokinon has 14 elements in 12 groups. This has 2 ED elements, and the Rokinon has 1 hybrid ASP element and 1 glass ASP element. So there is a difference in the build quality, and also through some online research, we found that the Vivitar performs better optically.
This lens is absurdly wide, especially on a full-frame camera. As you can see from this series of pictures, 13mm, or more accurately 13.9mm, is as wide a production lens as I have ever heard of that isn't a fisheye lens. This wide angle makes this a great lens for taking not shaky, out-of-focus video. Here you can see just how wide this lens actually is as I'm holding it out in front of me on a tripod. It looks kind of GoPro-like, which is quite an odd effect to get on a DSLR as large as the one I'm using. This lens, however, as you can probably see, does have quite a bit of complex or mustache distortion, especially on a full frame. On a crop sensor, the distortion is more barrel-like. However, in either scenario, I haven't yet found an editing program that can correct for the distortion found on this lens entirely. So this kind of makes this lens bad in some architectural or real estate applications where it's important to have very straight edges. However, for landscape photography, normally you can just correct for barreling in any basic editing program like Camera Raw or Lightroom, and the horizon will be sufficiently straight. We came up to the top of Mount Whiteface with this lens, 4,867 feet above sea level, and we brought it in this bag. And I have to say, at 1.3 pounds, no, it's not that heavy. No, this lens is not sharp. Optically, however, it's great.
So it's a nice Monday morning, and I'm about to go enjoy a nice boat ride. And something that's really nice about the wide-angled nature of this lens is it makes a great dashboard companion, so it sort of acts like a GoPro. And it's just an all-around fun lens to have around. So, it's a nice, beautiful Monday morning in my beautiful boat, and it looks like we're gonna have a baddie on our tail. So, let's have a little bit of fun with this lens, and hopefully I'll come out of it alive, and all will be well. Tail right now. I don't know if you can see her behind me. Pretty close. I'm gonna have to try and make it a submissive maneuver. Great thing about this lens is that it's a lot of fun to bring around with you wherever you go. It's only $260 to use roughly if you can find it for that much. And it's just light enough that it's fun to carry around with you everywhere you go. Baddie is hot on our trail, however, so I think it's about time we lose her. So at the end of the day, we got away, and we had a lot of fun, and I would definitely say this lens performed admirably.
I walked around with this lens trying to get it to flare for 3 days, pointing it directly at the sun, at a glancing angle, anything. After a lot of trying to produce a flare, I finally got this picture when approaching a light. This type of flaring is typical for this lens, and there are a lot of examples of this flare online. It does blot out most of the frame unfortunately, but it doesn't seem to be too common in my usage of this lens.
So, For less than $400, this Vivitar 13mm lens is one of the best bargains you can currently find on the market. And you better act fast if you want one, because Vivitar is currently in the phase of discontinuing this lens, so prices will probably be at an all-time low. Now, something that we found really surprising about this lens is that it's just as good, if not better, than its Canon and Nikon counterparts. And if you can live with the manual focusing and manual aperture rings, you better act quickly to get one, because it's definitely worth it.
So, on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, good night.